This happened very recently. There is a sheikh who studies in our hawza, in our religious educational institution in Karbala. His name is Sheikh Saad. He says that there is a very wealthy man who comes from the south of Iraq, perhaps Basra or Imara. He says, this man, because I'm a sheikh, he comes to me and he says, look, I have all these food and supplies that I'd like to give to the popular mobilization forces who are fighting ISIS at the front lines. And so, could you please help me? Because this sheikh has access, he can take him there. So he brings all these trucks filled with supplies and he helps him, the sheikh, Sheikh Saad, helps this man to take the supplies to the front lines. He said, one day he came to me and he said, I'd like you to come along with me. I want to go to the front lines close to Mosul. But I want you to help me deliver the supplies. But more importantly, I want you to help me find a man called Abu Maryam. He said, well, who is this Abu Maryam? He said, don't worry about it. It's just someone I need to find. And I have to find him. I'm not going back unless I find him. So he says, we went to the front lines where you have ISIS forces being fought by the Shia forces who are inspired by the fatwa from the Marja'iyya. And he says, we delivered the supplies and this man was looking through the camps of the mu'mineen in desperation. He kept asking, where is Abu Maryam? Do you know an Abu Maryam? They asked the commanders, they asked the leaders, they asked the infantry, they asked the foot soldiers. Anyone he could find, he would say, do you know an Abu Maryam? He said, I asked him, well, who is this Abu Maryam? Just tell me. He said, look, all I'm going to tell you is I don't know anything about him, but I can recognize him if I saw him, because I've seen his picture. He said, so I became intrigued. Sheikh Saad said, I became intrigued. I said, let's go and find him. So we went around. Eventually, somebody told us that there is a camp close to us, and if I remember correctly, there's a man called Abu Maryam there. So we rushed to that camp. We went to location, and before we even arrived at the camp, my friend, this wealthy businessman, he saw somebody from the distance. He said, Hada Abu Maryam, I found him, there he is. He said he ran towards him. He held him, he hugged him, he kissed him. He said, please tell me who you are. Tell me, what's your story? He said, what do you mean? He said, well, I saw a dream. When the 12th Imam came to me in that dream, and he said, I will not be satisfied with you. I know you take supplies to the battlefield, but I'll never be satisfied with you unless you please Abu Maryam and his daughter. I want you to find Abu Maryam, please him, make him satisfied, make him happy, as well as his daughter Maryam. He said, I told him, Ya Mawla, oh Master, who is this Abu Maryam? How could I find him? He said, the Imam showed me a picture. He said, this is Abu Maryam. You'll recognize him when you see him. Now I found you. Tell me what your story is. Abu Maryam refused. He said, listen, don't worry about it. It's nothing. He said, but by that time, having told the story, Imam Zaman's involved, everyone had gathered around. His friends started saying, you have to tell us. You must tell us. We need inspiration. Tell us if there is some divine help happening here. He said, now that you insist, I will tell you. I come from the city of Imara in the south, from the same town as this businessman. He said, my day job is a laborer. And if you've been to countries like India, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, these laborers, they gather in the city square. Cars come by, and if somebody needs a laborer to go and do something, they pick them up from the square, they pay them a very menial amount of money, and they drop them, and they drop them afterwards in the same square. So if I have a job, I'll get paid. If I have no job, if no one hires me, I'm not going to have an income. It's not a steady stream of income. He said, so every 2 weeks we spend at the battlefront, we also get another 2 weeks to go back home to spend with our families. So I went back home. I was looking for a job. I couldn't. 2 weeks went by. No one hired me. So I was embarrassed. I don't have any money for my family. I don't have any money to get a car. and go back to the battlefield. So I went to my mother. I said, Mom, could you maybe lend me 25, 30,000 dinars, which is about $20, $30. So my mother gave me a little bit of money. I came back to the battlefield. I fought for 2 weeks. Then I went back again to my hometown. This time again, economy is in recession, situation's not conducive for people to find jobs. 2 weeks went by, I wasn't hired. I didn't have any money. So I went back to my mother. I said, Mom, could I get some money, please? My mother said, what is this you're doing to yourself? Why are you even going to the battle fighting when you don't have a job? You can't look after your own family or children. Just stay here, look after your family. He said, I told her, Mom, but I'm a soldier that is at the beck and call of the Imam of my time. My Imam wants me to fight, I'll fight. I don't care what happens. So my mom was upset because she felt like I was squandering my money, I was wasting my life. So I left the house. He said, I went back to my house. My daughter, she's about 4 or 5 years old. Her name is Maryam. She came to greet me at the door. I looked at her. She was wearing an earring, a pair of earrings. I said to my wife, maybe you can put her to bed. Take those earrings so I can sell them and afford to give you a little bit of money and go back to the battlefield. I have to go back tomorrow. They're waiting for me. My daughter went to bed. My wife took the earrings. I took them, sold them for about 50,000 dinars. I gave my wife 25,000. I said, this is money for you to spend. I'm going to go the other 25,000, in other words, about $20. I'll pay the taxi or the bus so that I can make my way back to the battlefield. And then he said, I have been here in the battlefront for the last 2 months because I can't afford to go back to my hometown. So that man said, he said, the Imam came to me in my dream. And he said, unless you please Abu Maryam and his daughter, I'll never be pleased with you. So here I am. Here's a box of jewelry that I brought to give you. Your satisfaction is my Imam's satisfaction. Take whatever you want. Here's a box of jewelry that I brought. He opened the box. He saw the earring of his daughter Maryam right there. Let's reach out to the Imam. Let's beseech him. We all go through problems. We all go through trouble. The Imam himself says, "Inna lasna nasina lidhikrikum wa la muhmilina limura'atikum." اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ya